Marcus, you're up first. Deshaun Watson said this week that Will Fuller is going to ball out this year. And if he stays healthy, which is the big if all the time, he'll be, quote, one of the best wide receivers in the entire league. So what do you think of his fantasy value? And what do you think of Watson without DeAndre Hopkins?
Well, I am actually kind of excited about Will Fuller. I know there are injury concerns, as you mentioned, but I think that's sort of factored into his ADP right now, sort of in the middle rounds there. But he has done some work to try and get stronger. I don't know if he's BSOHL, but he's trying to get stronger and make it through 16 games. In theory, he should be talked about sort of like an Adam Thielen or Amari Cooper, but the injuries have dropped him down. As for Deshaun, I think he's going to be fine because he and Will Fuller have been great together when Fuller's been on the field. They add Brandon Cooks. They get another pass-catching running back in David Johnson. Plus, Deshaun can still run, and that gets you a lot of those hidden fantasy points.
And Fuller's he's playing to get paid, so he's got that motivation factor as well in there. All right, Kimmy, how about this one? Phillip Rivers told reporters that he's seeking a balance between aggressive and stupid this season in Indy. We know that he threw the third most interceptions last year with 20 of them. How do you feel about him? Where's your trust level with him in this Colts offense?
So I just want to start with saying I never knew that Phillip Rivers could even say aggressive and stupid. I think that's the closest he's ever gotten to cussing, which is insane. The aggressive part of the Phillip Rivers quote is that he threw for 4,500 yards last season. But like you said, the stupid part was he threw 20 interceptions, which ain't so good for fantasy football. Now, he's in a new offense. He is back reunited with Frank Wright as the offensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts, but I don't know if that's going to get me hopping to put him in my fantasy lineup. Now, if you have a 2-quarterback fantasy football league, you can go ahead and pick him up, but this is not a guy that I'm going to be starting week to week. This isn't the boomer hate in me. I just don't think Phillip Rivers is going to be performing as a top fantasy quarterback. I think it's going to be back on the stupid end.
I take that as a shot.
I mean, you do, Rank? We'll see
Rank
what happens.
That's a little disrespectful. Listen, I saw the underlying layers there.
I think we all did a little bit. They were out there. All right, so we know that running backs can make or break your season, especially if you hit on a rookie like maybe the rookie in Detroit. Now, Matt Stafford, he joined GMFB this morning, and he had this to say about DeAndre Swift.
I'm excited about him. I think he's a guy that just wants to come in here and work and get better. He's a sponge right now, just trying to learn as much as he possibly can. Obviously, when you hand him the football, you can see the talent. It's there. You put him out wide and let him run some routes. You see the talent. It's there. But I think more than anything, this whole, class of rookies that we brought in, the guys are good guys.
So running the ball hasn't been Detroit's strong suit, perhaps, but they already have Kerryon Johnson. Where are you on DeAndre Swift, Rank, and where is his ceiling, and where are you taking him?
Well, don't tell all of my friends, but I've been moving DeAndre Swift up my rankings because I'm really excited about this situation. You mentioned Kerryon Johnson, and last year they really committed to giving him the football. It just didn't work out. So when I look at DeAndre Swift and look at the talent that he had at Georgia, he really just jumps off the film. He is an exceptional runner, and I really do believe that Matt Patricia wants to run the football this season, and they're going to establish the run. And to me, I don't want to throw around crazy comparisons or anything like that, but it's very similar to me to the situation that Alvin Kamara walked into a couple of years ago in New Orleans. So now I'm looking at DeAndre Swift as a solid RB3, somebody that you would probably take in the 5th or 6th round.
Yeah, and they might use him in the passing game too because of his skill set and because of his route running ability as well. So he has a lot of upside there. Keep watching Fantasy Live all preseason long. We'll be here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to get you ready for your draft until we start daily starting September 7th. In the meantime, let's focus on some draft strategies here. At the top of rounds 1 and 2, there's a lot of different ways you could go. You could go 2 running backs. You could go 0 running backs. You could go somewhere in between. Marcus, what's the best way to go, though?
Well, the way I've been going is at least getting one quality running back out of the first 2 rounds. Maybe you're in the top part of your draft and you're getting one of those elite guys like Christian McCaffrey or Saquon Barkley. But even if you're in the later part of the first round, I think you can still take a shot at guys like Miles Sanders or Austin Eckler or somebody like that. I feel like if I've left the draft and not gotten one of those quality RB1 types in the first 2 rounds, then I don't like the way my roster looks. I know people are going 0 RB. I just haven't felt comfortable doing it this year.
Now, I don't quite disagree with you, Marcus, but I feel like running backs get all of the love where our wide receivers in the first round always need to get some love as well. Now, over the last 5 seasons, wide receivers have repeated as top 6 guys 10 times, which is twice as much as running backs who have only done it 5 times. Now, those receivers are guys like DeAndre Hopkins and Michael Thomas and Julio Jones. So let's give them a little bit more of the love. Like Marcus said, if you can't go out and get a guy like Christian McCaffrey or Saquon Barkley and one of those first round picks, then why don't you target a guy like Michael Thomas? For me as a fantasy owner, I always want to have consistency in the players and draft the guys who I know are going to get me points each and every week. And sometimes those guys just happen to be wide receivers. But hey, that's just me. You could also be like Adam Rank and go ahead and take a tight end in the first or second round and still somehow manage to win your league.
Don't give away all of my secrets, Kimmy. This is not cool, but I agree with both of you. I think that both of you make very valid points. I really do believe that this season, and I know that I'm probably somebody who was on the forefront of the 0 RB movement a couple of years ago, but I'm really locked into going double running backs here. That's right. First 2 rounds, running back. But the thing is, the only caveat that I will throw out there is that you have to be willing to adjust if things don't go your way. There are running backs I want to target. I want to target Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I want to target Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders, Kenyon Drake. But what happens if those guys are not available to you? Like if I'm sitting there and I see Joe Mixon, Dalvin Cook, if I see Aaron Jones there, well, that's when you got to take a little bit of be the amoeba and then kind of pivot from that. I would follow your example, Kimmy. I would draft a wide receiver. I would look for somebody like Michael Thomas, or I would look for Devontae Adams or somebody like that. Maybe even a tight end. I don't know. I don't want to give it all away, Kimmy, but I'm just saying, have a solid strategy set, what you want to do, but be willing to adjust when that opportunity presents itself.
Time for a fresh edition of Breaking the Ranks, where Adam Rank explains which players, fantasy managers, and experts all around the league are ranking way too high and way too low. So let's start at a place where everyone is judged, Hollywood. Marquise Brown, he's one of the players that you say is the most underrated fantasy studs out there. Adam, why?
Well, he's really starting to gain some momentum in the community, but I really do believe that you should be targeting this player in your fantasy leagues this season. Obviously, anytime you have a receiver that's on a run-heavy team, it's going to be a little dicey, but he did lead the team with 71 targets last season. He had at least 16 targets of more than 20 air yards last year, and to me, he kind of fits into a situation similar to Tyler Lockett in Seattle, so I think he's a great value.
I will say that I'm starting to come around on Marquise Brown. I mean, the ups and downs were a little too much for me last year, but reports are he wasn't completely healthy. The Ravens say they want to throw the football more, and those are sort of reasons for me to kind of get behind maybe taking a chance on him somewhere in the mid-rounds.
Also, that 4,000 calorie a day diet that he's been on, it's working. So we'll see if that's working on the field too. Adam, I know you have more. Who else isn't getting enough shine?
Well, I really love DJ Chark, who I think should be considered one of the all-elite receivers in the NFL right now. Last year, he was the most targeted receiver on the Jacksonville Jaguars. He had the most receiving yards and the most touchdowns. He had 12 receptions of at least 20 air yards in 2019. That was tied for third amongst receivers. And what we're really looking for from wide receivers are guys who are in a situation where they could be in games where they're having to throw the ball a lot, and we expect our friends down in Duval to do that. So I love DJ Chark this season.
I do like the point about the Jaguars possibly playing from behind a lot, because I do think that's going to happen. But I think it's a case for me of looking at passing volume versus passing efficiency. The Jags threw it a lot last year. They didn't throw it effectively, and so I wonder whether or not we're going to have a lot of roller coaster weeks with DJ Chark.
Yeah, all the reports, though, coming out of Duval on Thursday were glowing about DJ Chark. The connection with him and Minshew, it's amazing. It's blossoming. We'll see if that's accurate. Okay, let's go overrated here, Adam. The guys that you want everybody in your league to draft. Who is too high?
Well, I'm advocating everybody take Kenny Golladay because I want no part of that passing game for the Detroit Lions. Now, obviously, Matthew Stafford last year was on pace for MVP-like numbers, targeting, close to 5,000 yards before he got injured. But as I said earlier in the show, when we were talking about DeAndre Swift, the Lions want to run the football. And this is going to be a situation where Matt Patricia, in the third year, trying to establish the culture once and for all, that culture is going to be running the football. I think it's going to look similar to the way the Patriots were the last couple of years, where they were really run heavy. And I think that Kenny Golladay is going to come off the boards way too early.
First of all, how dare you? I mean, last year, Kenny Golladay found ways to succeed, even with David Blau and Jeff Driscoll at the quarterback position. And even if the Lions do want to run the football more, he is still going to be the primary target. He's going to get plenty of love from Matthew Stafford. I mean, this is a guy who was knocking on the door of a top 10 season. I think he can actually get there this year, so I'm still all in on KG.
I don't want to get into our NFL Fantasy Live League. Listen, we're going to draft this year, Marcus. I'm going to watch. You're going to have to take him in the second round now. He's all yours.
Second round, wow.
That's where his ADP is.
That's a little rich. Okay, for the love of symmetry and just like because I'm OCD in general, I'm going to need another guy here. One that's just getting too much hype, Adam.
Well, I really do believe that people are reading too much into the way that Tyler Higbee finished last season, and now they are overdrafting him in their fantasy leagues. Obviously, at the end of the year, he was the tight end one over the last couple of weeks if you started week 13. But you have to remember, Gerald Everett was not on the field during those games. So, of course, all the targets went to Higbee. And now I've seen people draft him in ridiculous spots. I want you to go do that. I've got a tight end for you later in the show who you're going to want instead.
We are of the same mind about this one. I mean, what we saw Higbee do at the end of last season was all universe type numbers, and it's just hard to expect something like that over the course of 16 games. If there is some hope for him, it's that I think he gets more targets because Brandon Cooks isn't there.
The time has come for our positional breakdowns, and this one is for the tight ends as we welcome Kimmy Checks back into the show. So here's the deal. Kimmy is a Chiefs fan. Marcus is a 49ers fan. If I were to ask you guys who the top tight end in fantasy is, would you vote along party lines? Kimmy?
I'm actually straying away from party lines, so ignore the KC initials behind me. I am going with my fellow Iowa Hawkeye and good friend George Kittle as the #1 tight end in fantasy football this season. Now, he had 1,000+ receiving yards in 2 of his first 3 seasons, which is tying NFL history, also leading the 49ers. He also finished 50% of the games in 2019 as a top 5 tight end, and that train is not going to slow down at all. He just got paid the highest contract in tight end history. Jimmy G is his best friend, which means Jimmy G is going to keep feeding him the ball. So I am all in on George Kittle this season, but the whole argument between Kittle and Kelsey is kind of like Oreos. It's a normal Oreo versus a double stuffed Oreo. All Oreos are good. Whatever guy you get, you are going to be happy.
Yeah, I'm going to go and kind of pump up Travis Kelce here a little bit because the king is the king until you knock him off. And Travis Kelce has been the king among fantasy tight ends over the last few years. He is arguably the #1 target on the most dynamic passing offense in the league. He's still going to get plenty of looks. And look, whoever you end up with, if it's Kelce or it's Kittle, you're going to feel pretty good about your tight end spot this year.
Can I say something, though, about Zach Ertz? It's kind of like when you're watching Ocean's 11. And obviously you've got Clooney and you've got Pitt, but like Matt Damon kind of makes that picture. And I think that Zach Ertz is kind of the Matt Damon here, kind of the guy who's left off the end of the show, if you will. But no quarterback throws the ball more to his tight ends than Carson Wentz. He averages close to 15 targets per game to tight ends. I'm in on Zach Ertz if I miss out on those top 2 guys.
The Eagles love their tight ends a lot of times because of their wide receiver situation like we saw last year. But
has that changed?
Let's get to some breakouts here. That sort of hasn't changed. If you're looking for value in the later rounds, Kimmy, who might pay off here?
Someone who I kind of want to get the hype train rolling for is Hayden Hurst. Now he is with the Atlanta Falcons because Austin Hooper is out. He is now a Cleveland Brown. When Hooper was with Atlanta, he finished as the third most fantasy point tight end in the 2019 season. So this means good things for Hayden Hurst. There is a huge upside and a low cost for getting him on your fantasy roster. Now, if you can't get one of those top 3 guys that we just mentioned, Hurst may want to be a name that you can target in those 5-6 round of your fantasy draft. So he's someone I am fired up for and hoping people can get behind this season.
Well, I have been waving the flag in the late rounds for Jonnu Smith. He took over a bigger role in Tennessee after Delanie Walker was hurt last year. And in the back half of the season, he was knocking on the door of being a tight end 1. Now he's got the job. Without a doubt in Tennessee, his role should increase, his target should increase. And this offense is looking for somebody else to throw the football to, not named A.J. Brown.
One of the hottest names at the tight end position this season is Blake Jarwin. A lot, you hear us hipsters talking about Blake Jarwin. Excuse me, that's easy for me to say. One of the reasons is with Jason Witten gone, with Randall Cobb gone, there's 177 targets left between CeeDee Lamb and Blake Jarwin. And Dak Prescott, again, is another quarterback who loves to target his tight ends. That's why if you're late in your draft, I would advocate you take Blake Jarwin, no matter how many tight ends you already have on your roster.
Don't pump the brakes on Blake is what Adam is saying there. We are focusing on the rookie quarterbacks that we could see out there potentially at some point this season. Now, Kimmy, Joe Burrow, he's a lock to start, pretty much a lock to start week 1. Are you taking a flyer on him?
I am. I'm taking a flyer on him and think he's someone that people can target in a late round. Now, this guy is like the Patrick Mahomes of college football. He almost threw for 6,000 yards and 60 touchdowns. I'm all in on Joe Burrow. I know we don't have preseason games to watch how he can perform, but hey, take a chance. Kid's got swag, and he's a guaranteed day 1 starter.
And every year, a rookie quarterback always emerges. Why not Joe Burrow, the most prolific college quarterback from last year?